Everyone has dreams about it at some point. The moment the crowd roars, your name flashes across the screen, and suddenly you're not just another player, but you are the player. Here's the thing most people don't see though, because going pro isn't just about talent, it's about surviving the invisible work no one is there to watch, the long days, the failed sessions, and the doubt that creeps in when no one's watching. This video shows what it actually takes to go pro. Let's start with a simple reality check. In every sport, the pyramid narrows fast. Out of millions who play worldwide, less than 1% ever make a living from it. The NCAA once published data showing that fewer than 2% of college athletes in the US go on to play professionally. In tennis, the number's even smaller. Only around 300 men and 250 women earn enough prize money to break even each year. And this isn't about who's the most talented. Roger Federer once said when he was 16 there were hundreds of players in Switzerland better than me, yet almost all of them quit before their 20s. The ones who stayed weren't necessarily stronger or faster, but they were just still there when everyone else stopped. The first truth is, going pro is less about beating everyone and more about outlasting everyone. Every athlete says they work hard, but real hard work isn't what most people think. Take LeBron James. At 38, he spends more than $1 million a year on recovery, cryotherapy, private chefs, full-time trainers. That's not luxury, but that's survival. In elite sport, the smallest edge defines everything. Or think of someone like Mo Farah. Before he became an Olympic champion, he trained twice a day, every day for nearly a decade, often without any guarantee he'd ever earn from it. He once said, "The work you do when no one's watching, that's what makes you win when they are." This is the second truth. If your work only exists when it feels exciting, you will never make it. Pro athletes train throughout boredom. They repeat the same movement thousands of times, not because they love it, because that's what it takes to master it. James Clear in Atomic Habits calls this the plateau of latent potential, the idea that progress is invisible until suddenly it isn't. Most people give up in the quiet stretch before the results show. Pros don't, and that's why they live there. The mental side is where most athletes fall apart. It's not the physical pain that breaks you, but it's the identity crisis. Sports psychologist Jim Afremow in The Champion's Mind explains that top performers think in process and not the outcome. They don't train to win a match, but they train to master a moment. Every serve, every sprint, every breath is practice in focus. Federer talked about this too. He said you have to learn to love the process of losing. That sounds strange, but it's what separates professionals from everyone else. They don't attach self-worth to every result, but they use failure as feedback. It's the same for Serena Williams. Early in her career, she'd lose matches and then re-watch the footage that night, frame by frame, trying to find a single clue about what went wrong. That's mindset and not talent. Pros don't just have discipline, but they built their whole identity around it. They wake up as athletes before they even step on the court, the field, or the track. Here's the part that no one likes to talk about: money. Going pro isn't just about ability, it's about access. In tennis, travelling to enough tournaments to earn ranking points can cost more than £60,000 a year. In football though, academy systems cover most of that cost, but thousands of kids get released every season and never return back to the sport. In athletics, unless you're sponsored, you pay for everything: flights, hotels, and entry fees. That's why many talented athletes disappear before they're even noticed. It's not about their lack in potential, it's because they've run out of money, time, or even both. This is where family, coaches, and sponsors matter, because if you don't have these connections, you will not have stability. Every pro has a support system that absorbs failure when it hits. Kylian Mbappe's father once said that his job wasn't enough to make Kylian a star, but it was to make sure he never quit. That's what real support looks like. So if you want to go pro, don't just focus on training, but build a structure around you that keeps you going when everything else stops. Now let's talk about the actual roadmap, because every sport has a system. Rankings, divisions, leagues. But the pattern isn't always the same. Sometimes it goes competition, exposure, consistency. For example, in tennis, we have futures, challengers, and then the ATP Tour. For football, it's youth academies, lower divisions, and then top leagues. For track, it's local meets, nationals, and international circuits. The mistake most young athletes make is trying to skip stages. They think they need to get discovered, but pros don't get discovered. They get noticed after years of visible consistency. Malcolm Gladwell popularized the 10,000 hour rule in Outliers, but the real message wasn't about counting hours, it was about deliberate practice, the kind of work that targets your weakness until there are no longer weaknesses. Every athlete who made it has stories of years when nothing happened. No breakthroughs, no wins, just slow progress. That's the boring truth. You don't go pro in one moment, you just stop being an amateur one day because your level has quietly risen above it. But behind every pro career are sacrifices that don't make it onto highlight reels. You miss birthdays, relationships fade, you give up stability for uncertainty. You spend weeks on the road chasing small wins just to fund the next trip. Simone Biles once said, to be the best, you have to be the most selfish version of yourself, but for the right reasons. That's the trade-off. You give up your normal life so you can chase a version of yourself that barely even exists. Even someone like Novak Djokovic, who's won almost everything you can, still talks about how lonely this circuit can be. The feeling that never goes away, you just get used to it. So the question becomes, do you love the game itself, or just the idea of what it can give you? Because only the first one survives. By now, you'll probably realize that talent is just the entry ticket. It gets you in the door and nothing more. The real cost of going pro is time, money, and identity. It's betting everything on a dream with no guarantees. But here's where the optimism lives. The process itself builds something no failure can take away. When you train with that level of intent, you build focus, resilience, and patience that transfer into everything else in life. Even if you never reach the top, you end up becoming the person who could have. That's the paradox of going pro. The outcome matters less than what the pursuit makes you. And sometimes that's the win in itself. So if you're watching this because you want to go pro, here's some things that you can actually do. Second, structure your week like a professional. Train at the same times every day, even if you don't have a coach. Treat sleep and recovery as part of training, not the reward after it. And third, build your support system. Parents, friends, mentors, people who keep you grounded and accountable, because you can't do it alone. And now decide if you're willing to keep going when no one believes in you, because that's the final test. You might never become a world champion, but if you chase this the right way, with discipline, focus, and respect for the process, you will end up somewhere that few people ever reach. Complete clarity about who you are and what you can endure, because that's what going pro really means. Not the contract, not the money, and not the fame. The person you become when you stop making excuses and start living like one. Thank you guys so much for watching. It would mean so much if you like, subscribed, and join my private tennis community in the pinned comment below.